Welcome in, Razor. Welcome into the Bruins Beat presented by Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And a friendly reminder, we're brought to you by CLNS Media. Make sure to subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. We just hit 10K subscribers. Big celebration. We're very excited. Make sure to follow us there. If you just like to listen, you don't want to watch, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, wherever. Lots of other great stuff at CLNS too. Celtics All Access, Patriots Press Pass. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Andrew Raycroft. Razor, what is up?
Not much. What's happening? We're live, huh? So
we are live. People can see us. This is, we don't have any mistakes when you do it recorded.
No editing.
You've done live TV a couple times before, so you know how it works. Razor, if your team lost six, I don't know if you ever lost six in a row in your career, but if you did, your teams were in a slump. What's the way out?
Well,
is it a big night out? Is it
it's past that. You had that already. Yeah, it's serious. It's just literally trying to not get scored on. All the way back to, okay, I'm doing everything. I'm going to have 5 guys in front of the net all night long. And if we don't get out of our zone at all night and we tie 0-0, then I'm fine. It just gets back to that simplicity. It's really hard to do. And there's a lot of anger. It'll be a mean, angry practice today. But it has to go there. Everyone's talking about going back to basics. That's the only way out. Only way out in the National Hockey League is to go all the way to as simple as possible and not giving up a goal in the first period, and then not giving one up in the second, and then not giving one up in the third. That's how you get out of this.
It's crazy to me how fast the vibes shifted. Like 3-0 to start the year, it was like, oh, they play perfect for what they are. They play perfect for this roster they have. And then 6 straight. And I remember even sitting here with Mark Diver after the Tampa loss, the one before they went on the West Coast. And it was like, oh, okay. Like, even though they lost that game, they fought back. Tampa's a good team. But 6 straight. Like, that's where it gets, I mean, obviously it's worrisome. But
the reason why it changed so fast is because they played 5 games in 8 nights. It was 8 days.
Yeah.
That's why. They were completely perfectly fine 8.5 days ago. They were 3-1. Everything was great. So that's the other perspective that everyone needs to have a little bit here is 8 days. You don't, and it's at the start of the season. We're not even, it's October 24th.
I know it is.
So what are we doing? That's the other part of this in the players' defense and in the coaches. And like, usually the schedule is different. Usually you have time. Usually you've played 3 games by now, 4 maybe. And everything's just, but they've had to play 5 games in 8 days in 3 different time zones with 1 day at home. Literally 1 afternoon at home with their family in the past 10 days, 11 days. So that's why it's happened so fast.
Do you think they go back to simplicity? I mean, it's clear that there are defensive breakdowns. You saw it on the last goal. You've seen it on a couple where guys sort of hesitate for a quick second. They don't know who to pick up in their own zone. I was watching it back after the game last night. Like, do they switch from man and go back to zone? Like, what do you do here?
No, you can't do that. You just have to get better at whatever the plan was. You can't with an entirely new coach, and Marco doesn't do zone, so that's not what this is going to do. He wasn't hired to do zone. He was hired to do something else. So you're not going back to that. You just have to get really good at what you're supposed to do, and you have to go over these clips that and organize and tell each other what is expected. Because again, the question after last night's game is, okay, whose man was that? What's supposed to happen there, Marco? Was Mason supposed to close, or is Charlie supposed to stay on his guy? What's supposed to happen there? And I'm sure he wouldn't have dug deep last night on it, but today that's the question for them, for all of us to know what was that, who made the mistake. Someone made a mistake. I don't know who it was though, because I don't really know what the plan is there.
It's funny. You were in there last night. I was not. I was watching after though, and Conroy asked McAvoy, was that a miscue on that last goal? And McAvoy was short with him, just said, "Yep," and looked pissed. And that's what kind of is a little tell that it was him. At least I thought on that play. I mean, you're right. Lowry could have closed. And, I know Lowry's had a bunch of defensive miscues, but just as an outside observer, that looked like McAvoy's guy in front. And I think this is another thing too. Well, this is another thing too, where McAvoy had a really rough night, I thought, last night, and has been rough to start the year.
Yeah, he's been average, but my counter to that, or devil's advocate to that, would be, one, he was short because it wasn't him and he didn't want to get into it, and two, Lowry calls a switch late. Lowry doesn't stay with his guy. So if it's,
it is the right side of the ice too. It is the right side of the ice.
And it's over on the right. If it's man on man, technically Terry is Lowry's and he switches off. So that, again, I don't know what's supposed to happen in that situation. If it's straight man on man, then Lowry's guy is the one in front of the net, because Lowry switches off and he's on the right side of the ice. If that's supposed to be a quick switch, then yes, McAvoy gets over too far. So again, that's the answer that needs to get sorted out, because that's what's killing them in their own zone defensively.
It is. And it's ironic because we all thought scoring would be a problem for this team. They're third in goals for in the entire NHL, and they're third in most goals against. I made a lot of predictions before the season started, Razor. I did not see them being brutal defensively in the Cards.
And even more so after the first 3 games, when it looked like they had it all locked down. The training camp, the whole thing, everything was moving beautifully through the neutral zone, in their own zone. And now it's that's what's really changed in 8 days, which is, again, like you said, hard to believe the vibes changed that much.
Crazy. I was sitting here like a week and a half ago being like, are they a playoff team? Are they maybe a playoff team? I feel a little different today. I rarely do this. I don't think I've ever done this. There was a piece of sound last night from Marco Sturm I want to play because I thought there was a lot you can take from this. And he was basically asked a great follow-up by Ty Anderson about a comment he'd made earlier in the presser saying, some guys are essentially on the bus. I don't have the quote in front of me, but they're still, most guys are putting all their effort in. I want to play this clip of him last night with the follow-up.
You want to give those guys that haven't picked it up to pick it up, be it in practice or games, before you start making some more perhaps drastic changes there?
It's hard to do changes. That's the thing, right? It's first of all, it's early in the year. There's a roster limit I have. Not too many changes will be made. You can tweak a few things, but that's about it. So I'm confident enough that this is the guys we can get, or we got to get out of it. But I don't think too many changes can be made. Let's be honest, right? So the guys in here, including me, the guys in this room, we have to fix it. We can't control anything else.
That little chuckle at the beginning, Razor. That little I got something out of that. I took that as the roster is what it is. The roster has its flaws, and I think 6 losses in a row. No, he's not lost the team or anything. He's 9 games into his coaching, no chance. But I do think there is a little thing of the roster is what it is. And even if you bring young guys up, which we'll get into, is that I don't think you're getting better outside of maybe Matt Patra, bringing Lysell in. You're not better defensively. They're having problems defensively right now. I think that's a big, what more can I do? The roster is what it is. What'd you take from that?
Well, yeah, but again, everyone should be able to play defense. Again, the roster is what it is. If you're losing 3-1 or 2-1 every game, and you're saying, listen, we just don't have anybody to score. When he says the roster's a roster, I don't think it's I think it's more a matter of these guys should be able to do what I'm telling them to do. This isn't rocket science, what I'm having them do. I'm not having them do anything that is out of their talent base abilities. So again, I don't think like the roster again would work if you're the Calgary Flames and you get one goal every game and you say
That's
the
true.
roster's the roster. We don't have goal scorers. Well, you scored 5 goals last night. You scored 5 against Vegas. You scored 3, you've done enough offensively. So I think last night is as frustrated as he's been, I think he's trying to, just get out of there. I think he's trying to laugh it off without being real personal with anybody. But I think he's saying, we're not, there's no remedy to call. Like, again, it's also the nature of this fan base and the nature of this idea that we'll just call up 5 guys. Well, it doesn't work like that. The salary cap doesn't allow you to do that. Waivers don't allow you to do that. Roster limits don't allow you to do that. You can't just call 6 guys up from Providence 5 games into the season to like switch everything. It just doesn't work like that. So that question after the game, it's like, well, no, we have these guys. These guys should be able to play defense, and we should be able to figure this out.
Yeah, I also think, though, that it is a little bit of the roster where it's like, and someone else asked him about it, like, are there more problems under the hood than you thought? Like, I think everyone, including Sturm, thought, all right, we're going to struggle to score goals, but at least we're going to be able to defend. I mean, Razor, you and I both agree on that. I think Sturm definitely thought that. And Sturm even said after last night's game, we're not an elite team. We know that. I just wonder if he's like, there are more problems here than I thought. There are more problems here, whether it be defensively, whether it be offensively too. I mean, I know they're scoring. They're 3rd in the league in goals. I don't think this is sustainable. That's one of the worst parts. Is like your biggest perceived weakness is actually pretty good right now. The problem is they don't. Last night they got it, but like against Florida in the first 2 periods and a lot of those games out west, they don't get a lot of sustained ozone time. It's a lot of just quick little rush chances. And that's where it's like, ooh, under the hood, I think their offense is definitely not as good as it's been so far. And their defense should be better. But I wonder if for him, there's more problems here than he initially thought. Not saying like, oh, I don't want to take the job, but just, oh, there's a lot more here that I've got to fix that I didn't know was here before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the big, Hampus Lindholm not being able to play is really hindering where everybody goes on the back end too. So yeah, the defense isn't good. The defense core isn't good enough right now. If Mason Lohrei isn't able to play with Charlie McAvoy, then and Hampus Lindholm's out of the lineup, then you're down. Unfortunately, you're really chasing and really hoping, because Nikita Zadorov has been by far the best defenseman. He's been rock solid. He's done everything that's expected of him, and beyond that, you need more from everybody else. So I guess if you maybe Marco thought the back end was better than it has been if he's looking under the hood, but again, a big reason for that is no Lindholm. That just affects them so much because they're just not that deep back there. The minutes that McAvoy has to play, Lohrei have to play so much more that it just puts a lot of pressure on them.
Well, this is what happened last year. I mean, you lost Lindholm and it threw things out of whack on the back end. Then you lose McAvoy and you've got everybody elevated playing in roles and minutes that they normally wouldn't have played. Mm-hmm. And you see it. Like, I think, on paper, McAvoy, Lindholm, I'll throw Zadorov in there. Like, those are 3 solid defensemen who are paid well. And then you get into Peak, who's a good 2nd or 3rd pairing right shot guy. Yoki Haru's a fairly stable 3rd pairing guy. And Lohrei, who is a high ceiling, sometimes very low floor, all over the place kind of guy. And you have him on your top pair with McAvoy. And the warts show, like we talked earlier. Like, whose fault was it on that final goal? And there were other goals too. The one, I don't remember it was Sam Colangelo. That was a weird one where Lohrei took his guy and then McAvoy sort of peeled off. And you're sort of like, well, who was it? Should Geeky have back checked harder to get in Colangelo's way?
Yeah.
They have these little breakdowns. I mean, I think for who was it? I think it might have been Geeky after Tuesday night's game, being like, we have these, or Pasternak, we have these 1-minute breakdowns where it all goes to hell very quickly.
Yeah.
And it ends up in the back of their net. And look, Korpisalo could have been a lot better last night. Like, I thought there were a couple of those goals you need to have back. I mean, you're the goalie. Like, you can correct me on that.
The third one was The third one, right, was Trouba came down the backside. You
Yeah.
got to make that save.
Callahan keeps him to the outside. And someone asked, about low rye, like, oh, should he sit? Shouldn't someone else be on that top pair? I like Harris is hurt. Like Lindholm is clearly hurt. Who else is coming up? Who is Brunet going to take over that top pair? Like you have what you have. And this is where Sturm's right. The roster is what the roster is. And I also wonder, like, who is not pulling on the rope? He's made no allusion to this, or he's not like called anybody out. He's not like Bruce Cassidy used to do. But like I wonder who is like not like he says most guys are giving it their all. I wonder who those other guys aren't. Can be hard to tell. I know everybody has their theories, but that's also not a good sign either.
No, that's frustration, right? That's frustration. So the last thing I'm doing is trying to figure out or throwing names out there. That's for sure. But I'm not sure if he means effort wise or if he means like figuring out what we're trying to do wise, not picking up what we need them to do in these situations out on the ice rather than like a full on effort thing.
I agree. I want to get into a bigger picture question about, are they this bad? But first, our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Bruins are scoring. They are scoring. So David Pastrnak, more than 0.5 points. Morgan Geekie, more than 0.5 points. I still really like those. Colorado comes into town tomorrow. Swayman, I would assume, is in net. I would take more saves there. Colorado's going to outplay the Bruins, so they're going to have more shots on net. Prize Pick is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks, they invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. I love this because you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Razor, are they this bad? Are we going to be watching Penn State games in the next couple weeks? Watching McKenna? We're going to be watching the top 5 prospects soon enough, or are they not this bad?
No, they're not this bad. They're not going to lose 79 games this season. I kind of broke it. Like they have not had a favorable schedule.
They've not.
They're going to. It's going to soften up at some point, and teams that have soft schedules to this point will have a schedule like the Bruins are dealing with right now. Especially the one. The problem is with the New York Rangers of the world, the Pittsburgh Penguins of the world, the East Coast team, they just get smoked. And the Canadian teams have it a little bit easier. The Carolinas have it a little bit easier. Carolina, I looked at it the other day. They haven't played a back-to-back yet. They've literally played 7 games over a 18-day period compared to what the Bruins are up to in 9 games and the Rangers 9 games and Florida 9 games. So it will soften up. I think they do. To your point, the defense thing they can organize a little bit. They can get on the same page. But again, the idea that this team was going to be a 95, no one had them at 95 points. I think they're still a team that's around 500 at the end, and will have. I think this is going to be the worst streak they have. I don't see them going on 6-game losing streaks consistently. I think their consistency is going to leave or show up at some point. The inconsistency is going to go out of the game once they get through this first month. But, hopefully maybe the balls drop the right way and you'll find Penn State. But, maybe you're looking at North Dakota too. The Penn State experiment hasn't gone quite what everyone thought it was going to be.
No, they're out there like stunting on LIU. Did you see that clip? The kid scores to take a late lead. He goes over to the 5.
I wanted LIU to beat them so badly. Then even more so seeing that the guy do that. Like their Penn State will not win because they're feeling themselves way too much. Someone's going to get those guys in the regionals.
No, they're not. They're not. I don't think they're going to win anything. They're not. McKenna bad. I
No.
tweeted this out after Tuesday's game, and someone replied, well, the 2017 Avalanche had McKinnon and Rantanen and Landeskog and Duchesne, and they were the worst team in the league. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, they were all, like, outside of Duchesne, they were all young.
Yeah, they were
I mean,
18.
like Patrice Bergeron, when he was in 2006, the team had Bergeron and Chara and Savard and Sturm, and they sucked.
Yeah.
And they had Tim Thomas. It's because they were young. Bruins have Pasternak in his prime, McAvoy, who is playing really bad right now. Like, McAvoy's having a really rough stretch, but he's still your top defenseman. He's still top 10 defenseman in the NHL. And you have Swayman, who's, a top 10 goalie in the NHL. I know people get on me for that, but I think that's what he is. And they're in and around their prime. A team with those three guys in and around their prime is not the worst team in the league. You're not going to be worse than San Jose. And I will say Tampa, by the way, right now is technically worse than you in the standings, but I have more.
Well, and Calgary is bad, and
Calgary and San Jose,
and we're going to sell off.
They're going to be that bad, but are they first pick bad? No. But the more I see this, the more I think, all right, like picking 7th, picking 6th. I will say too, Razor, I was liking Scott McLaughlin's questions after last night's game. He kept saying, because they are fighting. The Bruins are not suffering from a lack of compete. They go down and they come right back. Like that team last year didn't. So they're better than last year.
Yep.
But at some point, if you just keep losing, it's like, well, why am I give up? This is happening every time. Sometimes that can happen. So I'm not saying that will. I'm not saying that will. But I'm just saying
that. I would say last year, like the guys that were in the lineup were competing all the way. Morgan Geekie and David Pasternak were 100% right to the very end last year, and they were 100%. Horrible. It was just the lineup was just so bad last year. So we're so far away from guys mailing it in.
I'm not saying mailing it in. I'm just saying that, like, it's demoralizing. It's
of course, guys are mad, but guys have lost. Guys have, listen, your paycheck depends on this. It's just again, it just doesn't even come into your brain. You're just mad today and you want to win so badly tomorrow. Like there's no like back channels already of like, oh, I'm booking my trip to, Bermuda on April 6th. Like that's
obviously not. And I don't mean it. It's like
just
that.
Early to I love Scotty. It's just kind of like you're asking for a bad answer. That's all.
Well, I do think that there is something to that where it's like you're I'm not saying you're giving up or anything like that. I mean more so like the fire can wane a little bit where it's or at least as a team you start to struggle even more where it's like we're right there, and then whereas the real what should actually happen is we're 1 or 2 mistakes away from a bunch of points through these past 6 games. Let's just fix that. And that's what'll happen.
That's the answer. They've lost 5 of these 6 by 1 goal. If they find a way, the last 2 games, especially, and I'd put you last 3, let's say the last 3 games, and maybe even Tampa, but the last 3 for sure should have been overtime points.
Agreed.
So, like easy. And that's not like a Homer Raycroft pie in the sky like hope. I wouldn't do that at the Vegas game, but I would do that for these ones. They were 3 minutes away combined from 2 more points plus the Utah game. That's 3 points. So now all of a sudden you're 3-3-3. And the vibe, like it's just ways to like look at this and that's what you're going to do as a team. And I'm telling you right now, it's easy to say tomorrow, Colorado coming in. They haven't lost. They're going to smoke them. It's an afternoon game. Colorado's traveling across the country today. It's not an easy game for Colorado, and Bruins could easily jump on them, get a win, and then that changes how you think about the week pretty quickly.
And again, they played well against Anaheim last night. Like I thought they played all right.
They were smoking. What were the shots? Were like, again, this is the other thing too, right? Everyone's quick to jump on the 14 shots in Colorado, but we don't jump on the 37 shots they had last night against Anaheim or 23 before. They pushed at different times. They're bad defensively. You can't overcome that. But overall, if you can find ways to be somewhat not 6 in a row negative, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they're like, I see the tank for McKenna, miserable for McKenna. I did enjoy Connor started like the losing for Lawrence, Tynan Lawrence, who will be like a top 5, maybe be more realistic, like a mid top 5 pick. Robert Chalmers, what did he say? He said declining for Tynan. I like that one. That's a good that works. I don't think they're that bad though. I don't. I said preseason, like I think they're picking like 12th. I think they come out of this. I do. It is demoralizing that you come away from these 6 games with no points. As you said, you should have it. I will say Morgan Hickey did say last night, and I thought this was interesting. Hickey was talking about, someone asked, or Phil Stacey asked about, glass half full approach, oh, you're right there. And he's like, no, there's no glass half full approach. And also, like, we know how this can go. Like, we know this can spiral, and we saw it last year. And I do think there is that definitely in their heads of like, if this continues, I mean, there are a bunch of guys gone at the, or a bunch of pending UFAs, be it Arvidsson, Middlestat, Peak, potentially gone at the deadline. And I think they know that. They are fully aware of that. And they know that it can spiral.
Oh, yeah. No, you lose one game in the National Hockey League, it feels like you're never going to win again. But on the flip side, you win a game and all of a sudden you look at the schedule and like, oh, we can beat them. Like you beat Colorado. Oh, we'll beat Ottawa. We'll beat the Islanders. Now we have, we can win 3 and 4 games. You lose to Colorado, you'd be like, oh, we got to go to Ottawa. Oh, we got back-to-back Islanders. Oh, we might not win it. Like that's the mental gymnastics you do in your head in the league. That's because it's really hard to win. It's no matter who you're playing, no matter when it is, it's really hard to win. So, yeah, the guys all know it can get away. The unrestricted guys know that they're on a bad team and they don't play well this year. They don't get as much money next year. It's like there's a lot going on for sure. But again, it's October 24th. It's been 2 weeks since the season started. Which is hard to wrap our heads around because there's been so many games, but that's the reality.
We mentioned bad defensively a lot, and I want to get into how they can get out of this. And I think that defensively they rebound. But I found myself last night thinking they were really bad defensively last year. And there were legit injuries. Hampus Lindholm, as I mentioned, was out, and McAvoy missed a lot of the back half of the year. And you had guys playing in roles that they were not suited for. And that's sort of happening now.
That's exactly the same thing right now. Yep.
Do you look at Jay Leach at all? Do you look at him? I mean, he came in as an assistant last year. He's in charge of the D last year, in charge of the D again this year. Everybody looks at Sturm, but do you look at Jay Leach right now?
I'm not really sure what everybody does. It's hard to say. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it works. I wouldn't pick. I don't know how much each guy's doing. And at the end of the day, it's always about the head coach, for me. The coach really, the assistant guys help out and they put guys in positions and they have things to say. But at the end, when it comes to wins and losses and structure and things that we're seeing from this Bruins, that's head coach material. There's nothing that the D coach is saying to the guys that the head coach doesn't want said.
That's true. And I think it's interesting. Like I saw last night, there were a lot of reactions from fans being like, "Oh, Sturm should be gone. Can they play a system this time?" It just started. A bad organization. If you're the Cleveland Browns, yeah, you're probably firing Marco Sturm tomorrow. But the Bruins are not the Cleveland Browns. No. The only way in which it would never happen midseason. The only way in which it would happen is if they were a laughing stock and they were literally the worst team in the NHL. Like if they were rock bottom at the end of the year, I could maybe see them letting him go. That's hard to come back from. But if they are what we think they are, which is, a below average, like 22nd overall team in the NHL or something like that. No, I don't. I think Sturm expected that. They expected that. I don't see Sturm getting the boot especially during the year, and I don't see it happening after. He's going to get a longer runway than this.
I'm not. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm just saying. There's nothing I can say that will, yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see it happening. I don't.
No.
At all. I do not see that happening. I want to get into what they can do better and how they can come back and how everything can be rainbows and roses again. But first, make sure to subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. Happy about it. Do more of these live streams that you can watch. Podcasts all the time. Pucks with Hags, Poke the Bear, Bruins Beat. And then if you're just like listening and you're watching or excuse me, you're driving, just want to listen, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you podcast from. CLNS also has a ton of other great stuff. Celtics All Access, Patriots Press Pass. Those channels are humming. The Patriots are a fun story. Celtics, I don't really know how they're going to be, but Garden Report's always going. So go subscribe to those. What worries me a little, Razor, is if they're going to get better defensively. The defensive issues will get better. Like I don't worry too much about that. What worries me is the scoring. What worries me is I don't think this scoring is sustainable, and you're sort of wasting these goals. How do you see this playing out over the next couple of weeks, and how do they kind of get back on track?
Well, I think the power play has been very good. I don't see a reason why the power play would go away. I guess, you're probably not getting the extra push goal. Like and they don't need 5 goals. They should need 3. It should be 3-2 stuff. Where they so again, I agree they're not going to get these goals where Zadorov's rushing up the ice, desperate to get points. But at this on the same level, I don't think you need what they're doing. The power play again, that's going to be the same all the time. It's 5-on-4, and the situation's basically the same. You always want to score a power play goal, and they've been doing that. So I like Sturmey's talked about, I have absolutely no care about goal scoring right now. I don't care whether they can sustain it or not sustain it, or what analytics say, or anything else along, or the fact that it's really good right now, which actually should be the narrative right now. But we're doom and gloom. So we're saying, well, I don't think it's sustainable. Well, it doesn't matter if it's sustainable, like what we think it is. It is the 3rd best in the league right now. So, but I don't think that matters. If it was 1st in the league, it wouldn't matter to me. It's because that's not what this is built on. That's not sustainable one way or the other. It's not consistent enough one way or the other. You can't count on it unless you have McDavid and Draisaitl to be the top scoring team in the league. You have to play defense to win. That's what gets you over the top. That's what keeps leads. You have to be able to understand the defensive zone.
When you were playing, how infuriating was it, or what went through your mind? I sound like I'm interviewing you after a game, but what went through your mind when there were defensive breakdowns in front of you and you're sitting there like, what the fuck? Like,
well, as a goalie, it's hard, but you can't care about it. If you start worrying about those guys, like you really can. It's hard and it's frustrating, and you would get upset, I suppose. But there's still, as a goalie, you can always make a save. Whether there's 9 breakdowns in front of you, you can still always read it properly or get there properly or whatever it is. So, the goalies aren't going through the defensive structure today and saying, these are the breakdowns, and this is why this happened.
You guys suck.
They're doing the opposite, saying, okay, I have to make this save. I have to do this. I have to do that. So it's really counterproductive if you're a goalie and you're worrying about what's going on in front of you. You're in the soup if you're doing that.
But there's part of you in your head that's like, come on, man. Like,
well, we've all played hockey. Like, it's, we all know it's, when you're in the, when you're there, what's supposed to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Last thing, and this is something that's been brought up quite a bit. Would you call anybody up? Is there anybody from Providence? Would you go to the well right now?
No, again, it's just so early. I think when there's going to be an injury or two, so you kind of wait that out. That'll give opportunities, just like Callahan got an opportunity already, and Harris has been in. You have 2 extra forwards, so that makes, or 1 extra forward, so that makes it hard. And those guys that, again, those guys have done a pretty good job. The 4th line's not getting scored on. It's so, I think it's still premature. And again, you're going to have more than enough time, I think, to understand what you have down there. I think it's hard to do it early in the season.
My first thing I would look at, because I agree, you said earlier, like, you can't call 5 or 6 guys up at once. Obviously, you're not calling 5 or 6 guys up. That's not realistic. That's not what an NHL team does. I look at Arvidsson. I think Arvidsson has been, I like the speed element. That's about it. The production really hasn't been there. I know he had an assist last night that was nice. Doesn't really get to interior ice well. He's the one spot, and I know he's trade bait. He's a pending UFA, and I don't really know if extending him makes a ton of sense. He's the one guy I look at and say, I could live with putting Matt Patra in there. I could look at that as a swap and getting a young guy, some young juice in the lineup, changing something up. Middlestat, I know Middlestat gets a lot of heat. He's one of the only guys that you have in your forward group who has skill and a little bit of vision and offensive sense. Obviously outside of Pasternak. Like I Middlestat, I know their defensive inefficiencies. Craig Button had those comments the other day. I don't think those are wrong, but Middlestat still gives you something offensively. Arvidsson's the one spot where I say I'd be okay if you brought up a Blumel for him or a Matt Patra. And I know it's still early and you want to let guys cook, and I'm for that. But as the losing streak continues, Sturm shows he's not afraid to make big moves. He scratched Middlestat in I think Utah. But that's the one spot where I look at and say I could see a change being made there.
Yeah, and that could happen down the line. I don't, it's just early. It's just you have to do so much roster juggling to make a lot of that happen, and that's just not for October.
You don't think? I mean, I agree with you that it shouldn't be. I think when you start switching things up and changing lines up consistently on October 24th, that's usually not a good sign. But
it's more. I'm more touching on the plumbing of the league. Like the plumbing of the league doesn't really allow a lot of movement early in the season until injuries start happening, and you can put guys on long-term injured reserve, and you can move guys. Like there's a lot of plumbing that gets involved with everything. You're not losing a guy to waivers or having to put. So that's all I'm saying. I just don't know. And those guys in the minors have played like 2 games too. So it's, you know, I don't know if you really need to expose them to this right now. That's part of developing.
It'll take some time. And even Sturm's, we played the clip earlier. Sturm even said, you can't bring everybody up at once. There's not much you can do. The roster is the roster, Razor. What can people look forward to from you? You got Morning Brew, Nesson broadcast. Let everybody know.
Yep. Nesson tomorrow afternoon, 2:00, I guess, is the pregame. I'll be downstairs. We'll have the brew on the radio.
You've been great by the ice. I think
radio.
you've gotten really good down by the ice, Razor.
Yeah, we're starting to open up the mic and do some dialogue and stuff. So yeah, we're getting there. Wins will make it much easier. That's for sure.
It's tougher. It's tougher. I assume it's tougher. And even as a player, you probably couldn't stand being interviewed like during games when things weren't going your way, right?
Yeah, I feel bad. I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do is ask those guys those questions. But yeah, no, we'll get there. We'll get there. So but yeah, just living life. That's what we're doing here. Nothing to plug, but I appreciate it.
Well, Morning Brew. Go listen to Morning Brew. Come on.
EEI radio tomorrow morning. You can listen to it.
Is it Saturday or Sunday?
It's tomorrow Saturday, 8 a.m. Saturday morning.
Oh, I thought you guys were Sunday. I take it back.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
Razor knows what his schedule is better than I do. That's
barely.
Crazy. That's Bruins Beat. We did this live. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Andrew Raycroft. We will see you. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.